a truck built in 1960, still hauling freight on American highways today. No fancy computer modules, no touchscreen dash, no driver assist technology, just raw iron, a massive diesel engine, and engineering so overbuilt it simply refuses to die. Today we're counting down 10 vintage semi-trucks, true 18-wheelers, that were built with such incredible strength, durability, and mechanical genius that even modern engineers look back at them with respect. These aren't museum pieces collecting dust. Many of them are still working, still rolling, and still hauling. And in some cases, even new trucks can't match what these legends could do. So buckle up, because we're going back in time to meet the titans of trucking. These are the 10 vintage semi-trucks built so strong they're still unmatched today. Number 10. Mack B-Series. We start our list with a name that's practically synonymous with toughness itself, Mack Trucks. And the B-Series, produced from 1953 all the way through 1966, is the truck that really cemented that reputation. The Mack B-61 and B-73 were the workhorses of mid-20th century America. These trucks featured Mack's own thermodyne diesel engines, the END 673 and END 711, displacing up to 711 cubic inches and producing around 200 to 250 horsepower in an era when that was considered serious power for a commercial vehicle. But it wasn't just the power that made these trucks legendary, it was the build quality. Mack used their own triplex or quadruplex transmissions, some with up to 10 speeds, and built nearly every major component in-house. The frame rails were thick, heavy steel, the cab was all steel. The axles were heavy-duty Mack units designed for brutal, sustained work. The B-Series was used in construction, logging, long-haul freight, you name it. And because Mack made so many of their own parts, and those parts were engineered to outlast everything around them, thousands of B-Series trucks survived for decades. Even today, working B-Series Macks show up at truck shows, on job sites, and in private fleets across the United States. Many have over 1 million miles on their odometers with original blocks. The iconic bulldog hood ornament wasn't just decoration, it was a statement, and the B-Series backed it up every single mile. Number 9. Kenworth W900. Few trucks in American history have had the staying power of the Kenworth W900. First introduced in 1961, the W900 is the longest-running model name in semi-truck history. It's still being produced today, but we're here to talk about the original vintage-era models, particularly those produced through the 1960s and 1970s. The early W900 was a custom-built, long-nose conventional that defined the image of the American trucker. These trucks were assembled with an almost handcrafted attention to detail, because Kenworth, even back then, operated as a custom truck builder. Each unit was configured to the buyer's specifications. What made the early W900 so durable was the Kenworth frame, a set of massive, full-length steel rails that were riveted and bolted rather than welded in some configurations, allowing the frame to flex under load without cracking. The cab was aluminum and fiberglass, lightweight enough to survive rust, and the drivetrain was sourced from the most rugged suppliers of the era, Cummins NHC 335 or Detroit Diesel 8V71 engines, and Fuller or Spicer transmissions. The W900's engine compartment was enormous, designed specifically to accommodate big-bore diesel engines with room for easy maintenance. Truckers loved this because repairs on the road were often done by the driver himself, and the W900 made that possible. Everything was accessible. Everything was repairable. Vintage W900s from the 1960s and 1970s are highly sought after today. Restored examples sell for $100,000 and more. But many of them aren't just show trucks. They're being run because the bones are just that good. Number 8. Peterbilt 359. If the W900 is the Kenworth legend, then the Peterbilt 359 is its equally famous rival, and it earned every bit of that reputation. Produced from 1967 to 1987, the 359 became one of the most iconic long-nose conventionals ever built, and it's arguably the most beloved vintage semi-truck among collectors and working truckers alike. The 359 was built on a massive aluminum cab structure mounted over heavy steel frame rails. It could be ordered with virtually any major diesel engine of the era, Cummins, Detroit Diesel, or Caterpillar, with some configurations pushing over 400 horsepower by the late 1970s and early 1980s. That was staggering power for the time. What set the 359 apart was the sheer quality of its construction and the truck's ability to be customized. The hood was fiberglass but mounted to an extremely robust structure. The frame was designed for longevity, not just for meeting minimum regulatory specs. And the cab, while simple by modern standards, was built tight and solid. The 359 gained pop culture fame from the 1977 film Smokey and the Bandit and the 1978 movie Convoy, where it appeared as the dominant image of American trucking freedom. But beyond Hollywood, real truckers ran these trucks hard, cross-country, over mountains, through all seasons, and the 359 kept delivering. Today, a well-maintained Peterbilt 359 can fetch anywhere from $80,000 to over $150,000 on the collector market, and many are still actively working. Owners report they simply refuse to get rid of them, not because they're nostalgic, but because these trucks, properly maintained, still outperform plenty of modern equipment in terms of reliability and repairability. Number 7. International Harvester Transstar. International Harvester built some of the most dependable trucks in American commercial history, and the Transstar series, produced from 1970 through 1983, represents the peak of that era. The Transstar came in both conventional and cab-over-engine configurations, giving fleet operators flexibility, and it was renowned for being absolutely bulletproof in terms of drivetrain durability. The Transstar was powered by International's own DT466 and later DT573 diesel engines, as well as options for Cummins and Detroit diesel engines, depending on the buyer's preference. The DT466 in particular became one of the most respected diesel engines ever built. It powered everything from school buses to fire trucks to semi-trucks, and it was known for being nearly impossible to kill with regular maintenance. The Transstar's frame construction was exceptionally robust, and its drivetrain components were sourced or manufactured to heavy-duty specs designed for sustained high-mileage use. Fleet operators loved these trucks because the maintenance costs were predictable and the trucks rarely left drivers stranded. By the early 1980s, fuel efficiency pressures began pushing buyers toward more aerodynamic designs, and the Transstar's boxy profile eventually worked against it commercially. But in terms of raw durability, it was ahead of its time. Even today, Transstar trucks continue to turn up in working condition, some still in use in agricultural and construction applications, which is remarkable for a truck line that ended production over 40 years ago. Number 6. White Freightliner. Freightliner, as we know it today, was born from a remarkable partnership. In the 1940s, Leland James, founder of Consolidated Freightways, was frustrated with the available truck options and decided to build his own. The result was Freightliner, which later partnered with White Motor Company for distribution, creating what became known as the White Freightliner. The White Freightliner trucks of the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s were engineering marvels for their era. One of the most significant innovations was the use of an aluminum cab, one of the first production semi-trucks to use this approach. This wasn't just about weight savings. Aluminum doesn't rust, and as a result, these cabs have survived in extraordinary condition compared to their steel-cabbed contemporaries. The trucks also featured a cab-over-engine design that maximized the usable length of a combination vehicle under federal length regulations, giving operators more trailer length for the same overall truck length, which directly increased revenue per load. The drivetrain used heavy Cummins and Detroit diesel engines mated to Fuller transmissions, all well-proven combinations. The White Freightliner's reputation for durability was cemented in real-world fleet use. Long-haul freight companies ran these trucks at high mileage and reported remarkable reliability. The aluminum construction in particular has allowed many surviving examples to be restored to working or show condition because the structural integrity of the cabs remained sound even after decades. Number 5. Diamond T921 and 931. Diamond T trucks are not as widely remembered today as Mack or Peterbilt, but among serious trucking historians and heavy haul operators, the name carries enormous weight. The Diamond T921 and 931 models, produced from the late 1940s through the 1960s, were absolute beasts, designed from the ground up for the most demanding applications imaginable. These trucks were used extensively in heavy haul and specialized transport, moving oversized industrial equipment, oil field machinery, large structural components. The kind of work that destroys ordinary trucks. Diamond T built them specifically to survive that punishment. The frames on these trucks were phenomenally heavy. Thick steel rails riveted and cross-braced to handle extraordinary loads. The front axles were rated for severe duty use, and the rear tandem configurations were engineered to distribute weight in ways that protected both the road and the truck's own structure. Diamond T also had a strong military background. Their trucks served in both World War II and Korea, and that military-grade durability philosophy carried directly into their commercial products. The 921 and 931 used powerful Continental and Cummins diesel engines, and the drivetrains were built to be serviced in the field with basic tools, a design requirement inherited from their military work. Many Diamond T 921 and 931 trucks remain in private collections today, some still operational. The fact that trucks designed for extreme heavy haul in the 1950s are still mechanically sound enough to run is a testament to the engineering philosophy Diamond T employed. In an age of calculated minimum specs, Diamond T built above and beyond. Number 4. Kenworth 521. Before the W900 became Kenworth's signature long nose, the 521 was the truck that built the company's reputation for indestructibility. The Kenworth 521, produced primarily in the 1950s and early 1960s, was a purpose-built heavy-duty workhorse aimed squarely at the logging industry of the Pacific Northwest, one of the most punishing environments any truck could face. Logging roads of that era were rough, rutted, muddy, and steep. The loads were enormous, the conditions were brutal, and Kenworth built the 521 to handle all of it without apology. The 521 featured an exceptionally heavy frame, a reinforced cab structure, and was typically powered by large displacement diesel engines from Cummins or Detroit Diesel. Engines chosen for their torque output at low RPM, critical for pulling heavy log loads up steep grades. The suspension was heavy-duty leaf spring setups designed to absorb the constant punishment of off-road and poor road operation. What made the 521 remarkable was its longevity in real working conditions. Logging companies that bought these trucks in the 1950s were still running them in the 1970s and even 1980s, not because they couldn't afford new ones, but because the 521s simply kept working. Replacement parts were available, the trucks were easy to repair, and the fundamental engineering was so sound that there was little reason to retire them. Today, surviving Kenworth 521s are rare and treasured. Their work in the logging industry was so hard that many were simply used up. But the ones that remain are monuments to what overbuilt, purpose-specific engineering can achieve. Number 3. Mack R-Series. The Mack R-Series, produced from 1966 through 1990, is arguably the most successful and widely recognized Mack truck ever built, and that's saying something given Mack's history. The R-Series replaced the B-Series and took everything that made that truck great and made it better, more modern, and more capable. The R-Series came in dozens of configurations: the R600, R700, RD600, RD800, covering everything from long-haul freight to heavy construction to off-road applications. At the heart of most R-Series trucks was Mack's own ENDT 673 or ENDT 866 Maxidine diesel engine. The Maxidine was a genuine engineering breakthrough. It was designed to produce peak torque over a very wide RPM range, which meant drivers could operate with far fewer gear changes, reducing driver fatigue and transmission wear. The Maxidine engine in the R-Series was so effective that Mack built trucks with as few as 5-speed transmissions at a time when competitors were running 13 and 18-speed units. The engine made up for fewer gears by simply being stronger over a broader range. And these engines were incredibly durable. Mack built them to their own standards, which were exceptionally high. The R-Series frame was massive, thick, heavy steel rails that could handle overloaded conditions, rough roads, and the sustained stress of construction and mining work. The cabs were all steel, and while not luxurious, were built to last. Many R-Series trucks that spent their entire working lives in construction or logging still have structurally sound cabs today. The R-Series ran for 24 years, an extraordinary production run. And even after its replacement, countless R-Series trucks continued working. Thousands are still operational today, many in active commercial use. The Mack R-Series is perhaps the clearest proof that there was a golden era of truck building where durability simply wasn't compromised. Number 2. Peterbilt 281 and 351. Peterbilt has built legendary trucks throughout its history, but the 281 and 351 models produced from 1954 through 1976 represent something truly special. These trucks were the foundation of Peterbilt's modern identity, and they set a standard of construction quality that the company has spent decades trying to live up to. The 281 and 351 shared a basic architecture, a long-nose conventional design built on heavy steel frame rails, but they differed in hood and engine bay configurations. Both were aluminum-cabbed, which was a forward-thinking design choice that protected the structural integrity of the cab against rust for decades. And both were built to Peterbilt's famously exacting standards. These trucks were the vehicles of choice in the Pacific Northwest logging industry, an environment so demanding that it's often used as the ultimate test of any truck's durability. The 281 and 351 handled that work for years, hauling massive timber loads over mountain roads that would destroy lesser equipment. Power plants included Cummins NHC series engines and Detroit Diesel 671 and 8V71 units, all of them proven, durable, and relatively simple to service. The drivetrains were matched to heavy-duty Fuller transmissions. The whole package was engineered with the philosophy that these trucks would see 500,000 miles, 1 million miles or more, and they had to be built accordingly. Today, the Peterbilt 281 and 351 are among the most prized vintage semi-trucks in existence. Restored examples are showstoppers at trucking events, and they command extraordinary prices from collectors. But beyond their collector appeal, these trucks represent a genuine high watermark in American commercial vehicle engineering. Trucks built so carefully and so robustly that 50 years later, they can still do the job they were designed to do. Number 1. Mack Superliner. Our number 1 vintage semi-truck built so strong it's still unmatched today is the Mack Superliner. Produced from 1977 through 2000 and representing perhaps the ultimate expression of the American heavy-duty truck philosophy. The Superliner was Mack's answer to a changing market. By the late 1970s, long-haul trucking was demanding bigger sleepers, more power, and better driver comfort, while still requiring the kind of brute durability that Mack had always delivered. The Superliner did all of that simultaneously. Under the hood, the Superliner used Mack's own E6 and later E7 diesel engines, massive torquey units producing up to 400 horsepower in later configurations, with torque figures that allowed the Superliner to haul legally maxed-out loads over mountain grades without breaking a sweat. The E7 in particular became one of the most celebrated diesel engines in trucking history. Operators routinely reported 1 million miles on original engines with proper maintenance. That is not a rumor or an exaggeration. That was the documented real-world experience of fleet operators across North America. The Superliner's frame was Mack's heaviest rail design, built to handle overloaded conditions, severe off-road operation, and the kind of sustained stress that other manufacturers didn't engineer for. The front axle ratings exceeded what most competitors offered. The rear tandem setup was engineered for extreme durability under maximum load. The cab of the Superliner was steel, large and serious, available with a flat top or raised roof sleeper that made long-haul runs genuinely livable. Mack understood that driver comfort and mechanical durability weren't opposing goals. A driver who wasn't exhausted made fewer mistakes. A truck that didn't break down kept the driver making money. What truly cements the Superliner's place at the top of this list is its continued presence in the working world today. More than 20 years after the last Superliner rolled off the production line, these trucks are still active in heavy construction, in mining operations, in heavy haul work, in owner-operator fleets. Parts are available, mechanics know them, and the fundamental engineering is so sound that owners simply can't justify replacing them. Modern trucks, with their advanced electronics and turbocharging, are more fuel efficient, and meet modern emission standards. But when it comes to raw mechanical durability, the ability to be repaired in the field, and the sheer longevity of the core components, the Mack Superliner set a bar that modern engineering, focused as it is on efficiency and emissions compliance, has never truly surpassed. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe. We've got plenty more deep dives into the greatest machines ever built. And drop a comment below. Which of these vintage semi-trucks is your all-time favorite? Let us know. We read every single one. Until next time, keep those wheels turning.